Welcome to Biography Radio, where we dive deep into the lives of the world's most fascinating figures. Today, we're shining the spotlight on Sandra Bullock, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, a name synonymous with charm, versatility, and grace. Sandra has captivated audiences for decades, but there's much more to her than just box office hits and endless awards. From her early days in the spotlight to her current ventures in activism, real estate, and more, Sandra's journey is as inspiring as it is intriguing. Stick around as we explore how this down-to-earth actress built a career and a life that goes far beyond the red carpet. Sandra Bullock. To most of us, she's a beloved actress from The Blind Side, the fast-driving hero in Speed, and the lovable star of The Proposal. But what if I told you there's much more to her story than the characters she's played on screen? Sandra didn't just step into Hollywood with the hopes of landing her next role. From day one, she was setting the stage for a remarkable career that spanned genres, continents, and even philanthropic endeavors. In today's broadcast, we're taking you on a journey through Sandra's life. From her roots in Virginia and Germany to her rise as one of Hollywood's most cherished stars. We'll uncover her passions, her private life, her commitment to giving back, and how she's used her success to help others. But most importantly, we'll explore why Sandra Bullock remains one of the most relatable and grounded figures in the entertainment industry. Let's take a moment to think about Sandra Bullock beyond her blockbuster films. What do you know about her personal life, her values, or what drives her when the cameras aren't rolling? Did you know she's not just a movie star, but also an advocate for disaster relief, education, and mental health awareness? Or that she's made a point to live in homes that reflect her values of comfort, family, and simplicity? So, as we get into this story, I want you to ask yourself, what makes Sandra Bullock stand out to you personally? Is it her powerful on-screen presence, her authenticity, or maybe her sense of humor? Let's uncover what truly defines Sandra Bullock in this exclusive biography, her early life and background. Sandra Annette Bullock, born on July 26, 1964, in Arlington, Virginia, was destined for greatness. The daughter of two extraordinarily talented individuals, Sandra's early years were steeped in the rich cultural heritage of the arts. Her mother, Helga Meyer, was a renowned opera singer originally from Germany, and her father, John Bullock, was a voice teacher and a professional who had a deep understanding of vocal performance. Both parents were deeply immersed in the world of music, and their passion for craft shaped Sandra's childhood in ways that would later influence her career choices. Growing up in a home filled with music, Sandra's life was surrounded by the sound of operatic arias and the nuances of vocal performance. From an early age, she was exposed to the beauty of classical music, the discipline of practice, and emotional power that a well-delivered performance could invoke. It was in this environment that Sandra developed profound appreciation for the arts, not just as a viewer or listener, but as someone who understood the effort and dedication required to master a craft. Her father, John Bullock, was an American voice teacher, but his influence stretched far beyond his own teaching. Sandra often mentioned in interviews how her father was the epitome of hard work and passion, dedicating his life to teaching others how to refine their voices. This work ethic and sense of commitment were qualities Sandra would later carry with her into her own career. She witnessed firsthand the importance of persistence, patience, and honing a skill over time. Helga, Sandra's mother, was a German opera singer, and her talent as a performer went beyond just her vocal skills. She possessed an artistic depth that Sandra would come to admire deeply. Being immersed in her mother's operatic performances gave Sandra a unique perspective on the art of storytelling, through the fusion of voice and emotion. While Sandra did not follow in her mother's footsteps as a singer, the experience of watching her perform helped Sandra cultivate her own sense of emotional expression, which would later define her acting career. Sandra's parents' lives were centered on music, and their dedication to their craft became part of the fabric of Sandra's identity. The combination of her father's teaching and her mother's operatic career created a powerful artistic influence that instilled in Sandra a strong sense of discipline and determination. Though Sandra initially did not pursue singing like her parents, the values they imparted were evident in the way she approached her acting career. Sandra often spoke about how her parents were her first teachers, not just in terms of technique, but in terms of understanding the importance of creating something meaningful, whether through voice or acting. But their influence went beyond just their respective careers. Her parents gave her a love for storytelling, whether it was through song, performance, or through more subtle forms of artistic expression. Sandra's childhood was not one of extravagant fame or luxurious excess, but of deep intellectual and artistic stimulation. Family gatherings were filled with discussions about opera, music theory, and the intricacies of performance. These conversations, filled with passion and admiration for the arts, shaped Sandra's own artistic sensibilities, making her not only a skilled performer but also a sensitive and deeply thoughtful artist. The combination of her father's disciplined educational influence and her mother's emotional, expressive artistry created a unique blend that helped shape Sandra into a well-rounded individual. Her parents taught her that artistry isn't just about talent. It's about dedication, understanding, and a willingness to push through the inevitable struggles that accompany any career in the arts. This early exposure to the world of music and performance created a strong foundation for Sandra's later success, helping her develop not only the technical skills, but the emotional depth that would make her one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. As she grew older, Sandra moved further away from music and opera, but carried with her the life lessons imparted by her family. The importance of dedication, self-expression, and never stopping in the pursuit of excellence. Sandra often reflected on how her upbringing in such a musically rich environment helped her develop a sense of empathy and an understanding of how to connect with others on a deeply emotional level, an essential quality for any actor. Her family background may have been focused on opera and vocal performance, but it was clear that Sandra inherited the same passion for storytelling, just in a different medium. Picture this, a young Sandra Bullock, just a toddler, running around the cobblestone streets of Nuremberg, Germany. Born in Arlington, Virginia, Sandra's childhood took a unique turn when her family moved to Germany for her father's work. Imagine the sounds of a European city, the echoes of her mother's opera singing, and the melodic tones of the German language floating through the air. This was Sandra's early life, far away from the typical suburban American childhood. Her parents, both deeply involved in the arts, were the ones who shaped her early years. Her mother, an opera singer, and her father, a voice teacher, didn't just raise Sandra. They immersed her in a world of creativity, culture, and the arts. This was no ordinary childhood. Sandra grew up in a house filled with music, passion, and a constant exploration of the world through different cultures and languages. For a young girl, this global experience was nothing short of transformative. Now, picture Sandra, not as a Hollywood star we know today, but as a young girl, experiencing the beauty and complexity of European life, living in a country with a history, language, and culture entirely different from her own. She learned quickly that the world was vast and varied, and she embraced it. The arts, especially opera, became a lens through which Sandra saw the world, something she was connected to from an early age. She wasn't just absorbing German culture, though. Sandra's mother made sure she stayed connected to her American roots, making the blend of both worlds a natural part of her life. But despite all the wonders of Europe, at the age of 12, Sandra's family decided to move back to the United States. Imagine what that must have been like for a young girl, adjusting back to American culture after those formative years in Germany. But Sandra, with her global perspective and adaptability, seemed to handle it with ease. She had already learned the importance of embracing diversity, of seeing the world from multiple angles. And that right there is something that stayed with Sandra throughout her life. She didn't just grow up in one place or one culture. She was molded by multiple worlds. That unique perspective would shape her approach to acting, to life, and the way she would connect with audiences across the globe. Her childhood in Germany wasn't just about exploring a new city or learning a new language. It was about learning that the world is far larger and more diverse than we often realize. Sandra Bullock's journey to becoming one of Hollywood's most beloved stars wasn't an overnight success. In fact, her path to acting was paved with challenges and moments of doubt, marking the beginning of a career that would eventually span decades. Sandra's interest in theater began in her early years, long before she ever considered a career in acting. Raised in a family deeply rooted in the arts, her mother was a German opera singer and her father a voice coach. Sandra was immersed in the world of performance from an early age. She would often accompany her mother to rehearsals and performances, sparking a deep love for the stage and everything it represented. Despite this early exposure to the arts, Sandra didn't immediately gravitate toward acting. Instead, she found herself drawn to the theater as a form of expression, eventually leading her to study the craft more seriously. After high school, Sandra chose to attend East Carolina University in North Carolina, where she majored in drama. During her time there, she honed her skills and developed a deep understanding of the technical aspects of acting. East Carolina's program wasn't the biggest or most prestigious, but it provided Sandra with a foundation that would prove invaluable as she began her career. It wasn't just about performing on stage. It was about learning the intricacies of storytelling, character development, and finding a voice that resonated with audiences. But like many aspiring actors, Sandra's early years in Hollywood were full of struggle. After finishing her education, she moved to New York City with nothing but her passion for acting and a dream of making it big. She quickly learned that the entertainment industry could be a tough world to navigate, especially for newcomers. Sandra faced rejection after rejection. She auditioned for countless roles, but she didn't land many parts. In fact, she was often overlooked, sometimes even told that she wasn't right for the roles she pursued. Despite these early setbacks, Sandra remained determined. She took on small roles in television and film, often in projects that didn't make much of a splash. These early acting gigs were far from glamorous. Many were one-off appearances in television series, including shows like Working Girl and The Preppy Murder. These were not the roles that would define her, but they were the stepping stones that allowed her to build her craft and experience. Each audition, each role, and each rejection became part of the foundation of her journey. The road to recognition wasn't easy, and for a while, it seemed like Sandra might never get her big break. But instead of giving up, she kept pushing forward, honing her craft, and refusing to let the setbacks define her. Every rejection served to fuel her resolve, and every small job allowed her to learn and grow as an actress. It wasn't long before her persistence paid off, but it would take one of the most iconic roles in cinematic history to change the course of her career forever. Let's move on to how Sandra went from audition rooms to blockbuster hits, her breakthrough in Hollywood. For years, Sandra Bullock had been clawing her way through the underbrush of Hollywood, a city known for chewing up hope and spitting it back out. She'd auditioned relentlessly, collected roles in low-budget productions, and taken whatever work she could to keep her dream alive. She wasn't an overnight success, not even close. She was the kind of actor whose name barely made to the credits, who walked off set at the end of each day wondering if this one would be her big break, or just another forgotten footnote. And then came Speed. At the time, it didn't look like a guaranteed blockbuster. A movie about a city bus rigged to explode if it went under 50 miles per hour? On paper, it sounded risky, maybe even absurd. But in the middle of that chaos was Sandra, cast as Annie Porter, a quick-thinking woman who finds herself unexpectedly behind the wheel of that doomed bus. She wasn't the first choice. In fact, several big names passed on a role. But Sandra got the script, and something about Annie resonated with her. She wasn't a superhero. She wasn't a flawless femme fatale. She was real, and that was exactly how Sandra played her. From the very first scene, she didn't act like she belonged in an action film. She acted like she belonged in life. Her performance was grounded, her reactions natural. Her humor wasn't scripted, it was felt. The way she panicked, then pulled herself together. The way she joked through fear, how she bounced off Keanu Reeves' tightly wound presence with ease and charm. It wasn't manufactured chemistry. It was honest, and that honesty reached the audience. Speed exploded onto screens in June 1994 and instantly became a global phenomenon. It raked in over $350 million worldwide and became one of the defining action films of the decade. But for Sandra, it did something far greater. It gave her visibility. It gave her clout. It gave her the platform she'd been fighting for all those years. Critics hailed her performance as the surprise revelation of the film. Audiences walked out asking, "Who is she?" And just like that, Sandra Bullock wasn't chasing roles anymore. Roles were chasing her. She wasn't a traditional action star. She didn't come in swinging punches or firing weapons. But that's what made her stand out. She brought humanity to a genre often starved of it. In a sea of explosions, she was an emotional core, and Hollywood took note. Suddenly, casting agents who once passed on her were calling her team. Directors wanted to work with her. Producers saw box office gold. She had become the it girl of the moment, not because she had forced herself into the spotlight, but because she had shown up authentically, vulnerably, and brilliantly, and proven she belonged there. In interviews after Speed, Sandra often talked about how surreal it felt. To go from grinding for years to waking up and seeing her face on billboards, on magazine covers, on entertainment news loops, it was overwhelming, but she didn't let it shake her. Instead, she did what she always did. She got back to work. Speed was more than just a hit movie. It was a culmination of all the moments no one saw. The rejections, the failed auditions, the nights rehearsing lines in tiny apartments, the doubt she kept to herself. It validated the years of struggle. It was proof that her instincts, her resilience, her talent, they were never misplaced. And though she now had the world's attention, Sandra Bullock wasn't interested in simply basking in the limelight. She saw Speed not as a destination, but as a door. And with that door now wide open, she was ready to step through it and build something bigger, something lasting. After Speed, Sandra Bullock could have easily ridden the wave of blockbuster success, coasting from one action flick to the next, taking on formulaic roles and playing it safe. But that's never been her style. For Sandra, each role has always been more than just a paycheck. It's been a choice, a deliberate step toward proving that she wasn't just a woman who could steer a bus through a disaster zone. She was much more, and she wasted no time showing it. Just 1 year later, in 1995, Sandra starred in While You Were Sleeping, a film that would redefine her image, not just as a capable actress, but as America's sweetheart. It was a romantic comedy. Yes, but it had weight, emotion, a quiet tenderness. She played Lucy, a lonely fare token collector for the Chicago Transit Authority, who saves a man she secretly admires, only to be mistaken for his fiancé while he lies in a coma. It's the kind of role that could have fallen flat in the hands of anyone else. Too sweet, too quiet, too easily forgettable. But Sandra brought something entirely different. She didn't just act a part, she lived in it. Her delivery was effortless, her humor disarming, and her vulnerability real. You could feel the yearning in her character, the ache of being unseen, and the gentle spark of hope when someone finally notices. That film didn't just succeed, it soared. Critics praised her charm, audiences adored her, and suddenly, Sandra Bullock was no longer the girl from Speed. She was a leading lady in her own right, and what followed wasn't a stumble or a sophomore slump. It was a steady climb. She began moving between genres with a kind of quiet defiance. Romantic comedies like Miss Congeniality allowed her to show off her comedic timing, while dramas like 28 Days reveal her willingness to dig deeper, portraying characters who were broken, flawed, and achingly human. But it was in 2009 that Sandra Bullock delivered one of the most unexpected career one-two punches in modern Hollywood history. The first came with a proposal. It had all the makings of a classic rom-com setup. Sandra played Margaret Tate, a high-powered, icy editor who forces her assistant, played by Ryan Reynolds, into a fake engagement to avoid deportation. But what could have been just another genre flick was elevated by her performance. She leaned into the comedy with razor-sharp timing, but never lost the humanity beneath the tough exterior. You laugh at her lines, yes, but you also believed her, and that's why it worked. The film became a box office hit, earning nearly $320 million worldwide. And once again, Sandra proved she could still command the screen, not just as a love interest, but as the heartbeat of the entire story. But she wasn't finished. Later that same year came The Blind Side, a role that would define her legacy. In the film, she portrayed Leah Tui, a tough, no-nonsense Southern woman who takes in a homeless African-American teenager, Michael O'Hare, and helps guide him toward a future in football and education. From the accent to the attitude, the transformation was complete. This wasn't Sandra playing nice. This was Sandra becoming fierce, unyielding, compassionate, real. She didn't disappear into the role. She embodied it. Every scene was laced with complexity. Leah and strength didn't come from loud speeches or grand gestures. It came from quiet defiance, from the way she pushed against prejudice, against judgment, against apathy. Sandra's performance grounded the film. It didn't preach. It simply showed. And it struck a nerve. Audiences showed up in droves. The film grossed over $300 million worldwide, and the accolades started to pour in. That year, Sandra Bullock was awarded the Academy Award for Best Actress. It was a moment that felt more like recognition than reward. Not just for The Blind Side, but for the entire arc of her career. The rejections, the auditions, the years of climbing without shortcuts, the way she bounced between genres without ever losing herself. It all culminated on that stage, Oscar in hand. And perhaps what made it even more iconic was that just one night earlier, she had accepted the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress for All About Steve. She showed up to that ceremony, too, with a smile and a wagon full of DVDs. That's Sandra Bullock in a nutshell. Unbothered, unshaken, self-aware, real. By the end of 2009, she had become the first woman ever to win both an Oscar and a Razzie in the same year. But more than that, she became a symbol of range, resilience, and total reinvention. Her success wasn't just measured in box office numbers or trophies. It was seen in how audiences trusted her, how they followed her from one genre to another, from laugh-out-loud comedies to tearful dramas, and believed every step of it. Because no matter the role, Sandra Bullock never pretended to be something she wasn't. She just showed up, again and again, honest, grounded, human. And Hollywood, finally, understood that her brilliance wasn't an act. It was who she'd been all along. By the time Sandra Bullock took home the Academy Award for The Blind Side, she had long since become more than just a celebrated actress. She was a fixture, a name you could trust. But even more remarkable was that she managed to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, without ever becoming Hollywood in the way the world often imagines it. Sandra Bullock, at the peak of her fame, wasn't chasing the spotlight. She wasn't calling the paparazzi or crafting some untouchable image of glamour. Quite the opposite. She was quietly rewriting the rules about what it meant to be America's leading lady. There was a kind of paradox at play. She was everywhere, on the big screen, in interviews, at award shows, but she also carried this mystique, this realness, that made people feel like she wasn't performing off-screen. Fans didn't admire Sandra Bullock from afar. They felt like they knew her, like they could bump into her at a grocery store in Austin, Texas, where she kept a home, and she'd actually smile, say hello, and mean it. That image wasn't manufactured. It was who she was, in a town known for artifice. Sandra stayed grounded. She cracked jokes during interviews, walked red carpets without a trace of arrogance. And even when her films topped the box office, she never bought into the hype. There was humility in her success, a calmness, a kind of quiet confidence that didn't need validation to feel complete. People inside the industry noticed, too. Directors and co-stars spoke of her professionalism, her generosity on set, her ability to lighten the mood without demanding attention. She didn't pull rank. She didn't throw tantrums. She showed up, did the work, and often lifted others around her in the process. And perhaps most impressive, she maintained privacy in a culture that devours it. While many stars of her caliber were constantly in the headlines, Sandra managed to draw a distinct line between the woman on the screen and the woman behind the scenes. She didn't parade her personal life for attention. She didn't use romantic entanglements for publicity. She kept what mattered close to the chest, and people respected her for it. She also used her platform in ways that felt personal, not performative. After Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, Sandra quietly donated $1 million to relief efforts, not once, but several times over the years in response to various crises. She didn't do it with fanfare. No red carpet photo ops. Just action. That was her pattern. When the world hurt, Sandra helped. And she didn't need cameras to witness it. That authenticity only deepened her connection with audiences. She wasn't just a box office draw. She was someone people rooted for. Not just because she made them laugh or cry on screen, but because she represented something rare in the entertainment world. Someone who rose to the top without stepping on anyone to get there. And she didn't let fame change her. Even in moments when her personal life became public, like the highly publicized end of her marriage in 2010, Sandra handled it with grace. There was no media war, no explosive interviews, just silence, strength, and a quiet return to what she loved most: her work, her family, and the life she had built outside of the Hollywood bubble. That's what made her different. While other stars leaned into the machine, Sandra never let the machine swallow her. She embraced success, yes, but on her terms. She showed that you could be the biggest name in film and still walk through life with humor, humility, and heart. In an industry constantly obsessed with reinvention, Sandra Bullock never had to pretend to be someone she wasn't. She just kept being Sandra. And that, more than any headline, any red carpet look, or any award, is what made her Hollywood's darling. Up next, we pull back the curtain on Sandra's personal life and relationships. In Hollywood, privacy is a currency few can afford. For decades, Sandra Bullock found a way to guard hers like a secret garden, tightly held, rarely trespassed. She made a career out of being accessible on screen and nearly invisible off of it. But fame, no matter how gracefully worn, sometimes cracks open the door to the deeply personal. And for Sandra, that door swung wide in 2010. Her relationship with Jesse James, motorcycle builder, TV personality, and a figure from a world far from the glitz of Beverly Hills, initially surprised many. They met in the early 2000s, and their pairing didn't follow the typical Hollywood script. She wasn't spotted hopping between A-list events with him. Their courtship was low-key, grounded, a balance, it seemed, between her world and his. They married in 2005, and for a while, it looked like Sandra had found something rare in her world: stability. She often referred to James' children from previous relationships with affection, showing up not just as a partner to him, but as a nurturing presence in the lives of his kids. In public appearances, she glowed, but not with performance. It was something more subtle. Peace, maybe. A woman in her 40s who had built a life on her terms and found a kind of quiet companionship along the way. But in 2010, just weeks after one of the biggest professional triumphs of her life, her Academy Award win for The Blind Side, the headlines exploded. Multiple reports of Jesse James' infidelity surfaced. The timing was cruel. Sandra was riding a wave of critical acclaim, beloved by audiences and peers alike, when her personal life was abruptly dragged into the spotlight. The contrast was stark. While tabloids rushed to sensationalize the story, Sandra chose a different route: silence, dignity. She canceled promotional appearances, withdrew from events, and once again leaned into the one thing she had always done best: disappear when it mattered most. But this time, it wasn't about protecting her career. It was about protecting herself. The divorce came swiftly, finalized by June of that same year. She didn't offer public rants. No explosive interviews. No tell-all memoirs. Just a simple truth. Betrayal had happened, and she was choosing to walk away. It's a moment that, even now, defines a particular strength in Sandra Bullock. In the wake of humiliation, she didn't strike back. She just kept moving, quietly, steadily, focused not on retribution but on reinvention, not of her image, but of her personal life. And it's here that you see the duality she managed so well: an open-hearted public figure with a fiercely guarded private life. Long before her marriage and long after its dissolution, Sandra kept her personal affairs tightly sealed. No parade of partners, no oversharing. She lived a life few really knew, even as millions felt connected to her. Friends and colleagues often describe her as someone who could laugh at a room, but retreat without warning. Someone who loved fiercely, trusted sparingly, and had little patience for the performative nature of celebrity love stories. That wasn't her rhythm. She didn't need a partner on her arm to validate her. She didn't need a public love story to write her narrative. And in the aftermath of heartbreak, she didn't wallow. She didn't let it become her defining story. Instead, she shifted her focus to something she had always wanted but had waited patiently for: motherhood. But that, of course, is a chapter of its own. One that would redefine everything she thought she knew about love, family, and purpose. Before we get there, one thing remains clear. Sandra Bullock didn't just survive public heartbreak. She transcended it with grace, with grit, and without ever letting it harden the soft places that made her beloved in the first place. After the storm, Sandra Bullock found something steady, something sacred, something she'd long held in her heart, but had waited for until the time was right: motherhood. In 2010, the very same year her marriage unraveled in front of the world, Sandra made a quiet, life-changing decision that would reshape her sense of purpose. She became a mother. Louis Bardo Bullock, a wide-eyed baby boy born in New Orleans, came into her life not through a red carpet or a hospital room filled with cameras, but through adoption. She had started the adoption process years earlier, while still married, but it wasn't until she was on her own again that she stepped fully into the role of mom. It wasn't about fixing something broken. It was about fulfilling something that had always been waiting for her. Sandra introduced Louis to the world gently, in her own time, not through paparazzi shots or press releases, but through a quiet feature in People magazine, where she let the world know what really mattered now. Her son, Louis, she once said, was nothing short of a blessing. And from the moment he entered her life, her entire orbit shifted. She stepped back from the fast lane, slowed down on film roles, rearranged her priorities not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Hollywood had long been her stage, but her home was now her anchor. Motherhood brought a steadiness she hadn't quite known before. Her career had been filled with applause, awards, and accolades. But with Louis, the joy was quieter. It was the sound of tiny footsteps on hardwood floors, the peace of early mornings and bedtime stories, the laughter that wasn't scripted. This wasn't a role. This was real. In 2015, she expanded her family again, adopting her daughter, Layla Bullock, who had been in foster care in Louisiana. The process wasn't easy. Layla had experienced trauma, instability, and the uncertainty that too many children in the system endure. But Sandra was patient, gentle, protective. She shielded Layla from the spotlight during the early years, wanting to create a foundation of trust before the world ever knew her name. And when Sandra finally introduced her daughter publicly, it wasn't for fanfare. It was for truth. She wanted people to understand that love builds families. That biology isn't the only thing that makes someone a parent. Her children became her everything. They traveled with her, grew with her, taught her, as she often said, far more than she could ever teach them. Louis, with his quiet wisdom and old soul. Layla, with her bold energy and fierce heart. They were her world, and everything else became secondary. Sandra adjusted her career around their needs. Roles were no longer just about artistic challenge or box office draw. They were about schedule, travel, time away. She turned down opportunities that didn't align with the rhythm of her family life. And she did it without regret. Friends described her as a hands-on mom, the kind who showed up, packed lunches. I attended school events, made pancakes. She wasn't trying to live two lives. She was trying to live one full, meaningful one. A life where her children knew they were loved, not by the size of the house or the name on the marquee, but by the everyday moments only a present parent can give. Motherhood, for Sandra Bullock, wasn't a subplot. It became the main story. And through it, she found the kind of fulfillment no red carpet could ever offer. Not just happiness, but peace. Not just legacy, but love. The kind of love that lives beyond a camera flash. That doesn't need to be performed. That endures. Coming up, it's not just roles or awards. Sandra's philanthropy and activism. Stay with us. When you spend enough time watching someone's career unfold on the big screen, it's easy to think you know them. You cheer for their triumphs, empathize with their heartbreaks, and follow the arc of their life like a story playing out in chapters. But there are some pages that don't make headlines. Quiet acts of compassion, generous gestures done far from the cameras, and a steadfast belief in helping others without asking for recognition. That's Sandra Bullock. As much as she's known for her iconic roles and impeccable timing, she's equally admired for the way she's quietly, consistently given back. Sandra's humanitarian efforts weren't born out of publicity or branding. They were born out of conviction, out of heart. Take the American Red Cross, for instance. In a world where celebrity donations are often accompanied by press releases and flashy photo ops, Sandra gave quietly, repeatedly. Since 2001, she's donated at least $1 million to the organization, not once, not twice, but multiple times, each time after a devastating disaster struck. When the September 11th attacks shook the nation, she gave. When a tsunami ravaged Southeast Asia in 2004, she gave again. When Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans in 2005, Sandra stepped up. And it didn't stop there. In 2010, after the catastrophic earthquake in Haiti, she donated another $1 million to Doctors Without Borders to support their relief efforts. In 2011, after the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, she quietly wired $1 million to the Red Cross again, never asking for recognition, just knowing the need was there. She didn't do it for applause. She didn't call a press conference. She just acted. Her connection to New Orleans, however, was deeply personal. After adopting her son Louis from the city in 2010, her bond with the community deepened. She didn't just give back. She stayed involved. One place in particular holds her heart: Warren Easton Charter High School. It's the oldest public high school in Louisiana and was badly damaged by Hurricane Katrina. Sandra didn't just write a check and walk away. She became a dedicated supporter. She funded the school's on-site health clinic. She supported scholarships. She even showed up to graduation ceremonies, often in person, cheering students on as they walked across the stage. She made sure those kids knew they were seen, that someone believed in them, that their story mattered. When people talk about giving back, Sandra Bullock lives it. There's no billboard, no Sandra Bullock Foundation engraved on the side of the building, just action. She's helped rebuild communities, support healthcare, fund education, and lift spirits, all while keeping her own name in the background. It wasn't about creating a brand of philanthropy. It was about doing what felt right. Sandra Bullock has always moved with quiet purpose. She never sought to lead marches or deliver headlines. But in more recent years, that quiet purpose has begun to step into more public view, not for attention, but for necessity, especially when the threats started getting personal. In 2022, a new form of deception was becoming alarmingly common. Scammers were using Sandra's name and likeness to defraud unsuspecting fans online. Fake social media accounts, false charities, elaborate cons claiming to raise money on her behalf. For someone so fiercely protective of her privacy, and even more fiercely protective of others, this crossed a line. She didn't shrug it off. She didn't let it slide. She acted. Sandra and her sister, Jessine Bullock Prado, a former lawyer turned pastry chef and writer, took the fight head on. The two sisters issued public statements, not just to clear Sandra's name, but to protect others from falling prey to the scams. Together, they began advocating for more awareness around online impersonation and digital safety, especially among vulnerable communities most likely to be targeted by fraud. It was deeply personal for Sandra, not because it affected her reputation. She could withstand that, but because it hurt people who trusted her, who believed they were supporting something she was involved in, only to be deceived and taken advantage of. That's what she couldn't let go of. Her advocacy didn't stop there. Around the same time, Sandra began lending her voice to something even closer to the core: mental health. Over the years, she had witnessed the toll that fame, trauma, and grief could take, not just on herself, but on those she cared about. The entertainment industry, while glamorous on the surface, was often isolating and relentless underneath, and motherhood had changed her perspective on everything. Sandra started quietly supporting initiatives aimed at global mental health care. She backed organizations working to provide better access to mental health services for children, veterans, and survivors of trauma. She met with mental health professionals. She educated herself. She began speaking out in her own measured way about the need to remove the stigma around therapy, around asking for help, around breaking generational cycles of silence. She didn't plaster it across tabloids. She didn't turn it into a campaign. True to her style, she moved with authenticity. Focus on impact, not exposure. It's important to note that none of this came from a need to rebrand or reinvent herself. Sandra never set out to become a celebrity activist, but life kept presenting her with situations where staying silent no longer felt right. Whether it was responding to disaster relief, showing up for high school graduates, protecting fans from online abuse, or backing organizations devoted to mental health care, Sandra Bullock kept showing up again and again, and with each step, she expanded the definition of what it means to be a public figure. It wasn't just about the role she played or the awards she won. It was about the lives she touched, the very real lives, through actions rooted in empathy, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to do better. Now, we take a closer look at Sandra Bullock's real estate and lifestyle. Sandra Bullock has always been known for her unique sense of style, which, when it comes to real estate, reflects a love for timeless elegance and comfort rather than opulence. She's someone who values homes not just for their size or status, but for their ability to create a warm, welcoming atmosphere, spaces where family can grow and memories can be made. In 2009, Sandra made a significant move by purchasing a grand southern mansion in New Orleans. This home wasn't just another luxury property on the market. It was a piece of history with a rich past that spoke to the deep culture of the region. Located in one of the most historic neighborhoods, the mansion had all the charm of old-world architecture, with sweeping verandas, ornate ironwork, and large, airy rooms. For Sandra, the appeal was clear. She could imagine a life there, one rooted in the warmth of family and the history of the city. Instead of turning this into a showpiece, Sandra approached the mansion with a sense of reverence. The home had seen its share of wear and tear, but it still held the essence of something special. So, she set about restoring it, bringing the old features back to life, while adding her own touch of modern comfort. The goal was never to make the house the center of attention, but to create a place that would feel like home, a retreat where her family could gather and unwind, free from the spotlight of her Hollywood career. Her renovation process wasn't rushed. Sandra took her time, working with architects and designers to ensure that the home stayed true to its roots while meeting the needs of her busy life. Every room was considered with care, from the grand living spaces to the intimate corners of the house. The focus was always on making it comfortable, practical, and inviting. There was an emphasis on making the home feel like a place of refuge, a sanctuary from the demands of fame. When Sandra decided to sell the property in 2018, it wasn't because she no longer appreciated the house. In fact, she'd made it exactly what she wanted. But as with any journey, circumstances change. By this time, her children were growing, and the demands of family life had shifted. She knew it was time for a new chapter, a place that could better serve the needs of her evolving family. The sale of the mansion marked the end of one story, but the start of another. And through it all, Sandra remained true to her roots, a love for homes that are filled with history, warmth, and love. Sandra's real estate journey has never been about the flashiness of luxury. It's about finding homes that reflect who she is and what matters most to her: comfort, family, and the opportunity to create a space where people can come together and truly live. Sandra Bullock has always been someone who values practicality and sustainability in all aspects of her life, and her choice of vehicles is no exception. From the very beginning, Sandra's car history was grounded in modesty, which perfectly aligned with her humble approach to life. In the early years of her career, Sandra drove a Honda CRX, a small, fuel-efficient car that was far removed from the high-end luxury vehicles many people might expect someone of her fame to drive. The Honda CRX was a symbol of Sandra's down-to-earth personality. She wasn't focused on making a statement with her car. She simply needed something reliable and practical to get her from point A to point B. As her career continued to soar, Sandra's car choices evolved, but they remained in line with her values. She moved into a luxury Audi A8, a more refined option that still spoke to her sense of practicality and understated style. The Audi A8, known for its sophistication and comfort, was a perfect fit for Sandra's busy lifestyle. It offered the space and luxury she needed while maintaining the kind of understated elegance that aligned with her character. Sandra wasn't drawn to flashiness, but she certainly appreciated the quality and performance that Audi provided. But Sandra's commitment to staying grounded wasn't just reflected in the car she drove. It also extended to her eco-conscious choices. As someone who's always been mindful of her impact on the world, Sandra made the decision to add a Tesla Model S to her collection. The Model S is not just a luxury electric vehicle. It's a statement of environmental responsibility. By choosing the Tesla, Sandra reinforced her dedication to sustainability and her desire to do her part in reducing her carbon footprint. It's a decision that goes beyond convenience or status. Sandra's choice of the Tesla reflects her forward-thinking mindset and her belief in the importance of protecting the environment for future generations. Sandra's car choices are a testament to her personality. They are practical, refined, and considerate of the world around her. Whether she's driving a modest Honda CRX or a luxurious Audi A8, or making an eco-conscious decision with a Tesla, Sandra's vehicles tell the story of someone who values functionality and sustainability over appearances. She's never been one to seek out unnecessary attention, and her cars reflect that same authenticity and focus on what truly matters. From her homes to her cars, Sandra Bullock's lifestyle choices reflect a commitment to practicality, sustainability, and family. She's created a life for herself and her loved ones that is rooted in genuine care, not just for material possessions, but for the world around her. Sandra's choices may not be about showcasing her wealth or status, but about building a life that feels true to who she is and what she believes in. Stay tuned as we move ahead to Sandra Bullock's current endeavors. Sandra Bullock's career has been marked by an impressive and diverse array of roles, but her recent professional achievements showcase her continued ability to evolve and captivate audiences. After decades in the spotlight, Sandra remains a significant force in Hollywood, constantly balancing her work as both a talented actress and a powerful producer. One of the standout moments in her recent career came when she reunited with her Speed co-star Keanu Reeves for the 30th anniversary of their iconic 1994 film. The reunion was more than just a celebration of the film's lasting impact on pop culture. It was a heartwarming acknowledgement of the powerful chemistry between Sandra and Keanu that has resonated with fans for decades. Their camaraderie, both on and off screen, has remained a touchstone of the film, and this reunion reminded audiences of their shared magic that made Speed such a beloved movie in the action genre. In addition to revisiting old favorites, Sandra's career continues to shine brightly with her involvement in both acting and producing. In 2021, she starred in the hit Netflix film The Unforgettable, where she portrayed Ruth Slater, a woman released from prison after serving a sentence for a violent crime. The film demonstrated Sandra's commitment to taking on complex roles that challenge her range and offer audiences a deep, emotional experience. Her performance in The Unforgettable earned her critical praise, solidifying her place as one of the most versatile actresses in Hollywood. Beyond acting, Sandra has expanded her role in the industry through her work as producer. With her production company, Fortis Films, she has been able to take on projects that are meaningful to her. The company has produced a variety of films and projects, many of which reflect Sandra's desire to push boundaries, tell diverse stories, and offer opportunities for talented creators. Her dual role as both an actress and producer has allowed her to shape the projects she works on, giving her a unique voice in Hollywood that extends far beyond her performances. Sandra Bullock's life in the public eye has been filled with both triumphs and challenges, but one of the most remarkable aspects of her career is her ability to maintain a sense of privacy and personal space in an industry that constantly demands attention. Despite her undeniable fame and the constant scrutiny of Hollywood, Sandra has carefully curated the way she presents herself to the world, keeping her most important moments out of the spotlight. Hollywood often places its stars in an unforgiving public microscope, where every detail of their lives is analyzed and speculated upon. Yet, Sandra Bullock has mastered the art of striking a balance between the demands of fame and the desire for privacy. She has always been fiercely protective of her personal life, particularly when it comes to her family. Sandra has made it clear that she values her time at home with her children and chooses to keep those moments private, away from the glare cameras. This approach is evident in how she has kept her relationships largely out of the public eye, particularly her relationships after her high-profile marriage to Jesse James. Sandra's decision to live in a way that feels authentic to her, rather than playing into the typical Hollywood narrative, has made her a role model for many who crave a more grounded, less intrusive public life. While she does appear at events and in the media, she doesn't indulge in the drama and gossip that often accompanies the lives of other celebrities. Sandra's reputation for being humble and down-to-earth is, in part, a result of her ability to maintain a boundary between her professional and private worlds. When it comes to her children, Sandra has been particularly cautious. She adopted her son Louis Bardo in 2010 and later her daughter Layla Bullock in 2015. Both adoptions were kept private for as long as possible, with Sandra revealing them only when she felt ready. In a world where many stars flaunt their personal lives on social media, Sandra's decision to keep her children's lives out of the public eye speaks volumes about her desire to create a safe, private environment for them. She understands the unique pressures her children would face growing up in the limelight and has done everything she can to shield them from unnecessary exposure. The way Sandra manages her public image is also a reflection of her values. She understands that fame is fleeting and that her true legacy will not be built solely on red carpets and magazine covers. Instead, her focus has always been on making meaningful contributions both in her career and in her personal life. Her ability to balance fame with privacy has allowed her to live on her own terms, free from the pressures that often come with being a household name. By keeping certain aspects of her life private, Sandra has also shown the world that she is more than just the role she plays. She's a mother, a philanthropist, and a person who values her own space. Her decision to navigate fame in a way that protects her peace and that of her family has only enhanced her appeal, making her even more relatable to fans who respect her for not playing into the typical Hollywood narrative. Sandra Bullock has always been authentic in how she approaches both her career and her life outside of it. And that authenticity is one of the key reasons why she continues to be so beloved by fans worldwide. Coming up next is Sandra's mental health advocacy. Sandra Bullock has not only made a name for herself as one of Hollywood's most versatile and beloved stars, but she has also used her platform to shed light on an issue close to her heart: mental health. In an industry where the focus is often placed on physical appearance and professional achievements, Sandra has been open about the importance of mental well-being, using her voice to advocate for those who may feel silenced or marginalized by their struggles. Sandra's commitment to mental health advocacy stems from her own experiences and her understanding of the pressures of being in the public eye. She has spoken candidly about the challenges that come with maintaining a healthy balance in a high-stress, fast-paced world, and she has consistently used her influence to raise awareness and offer support. Whether through interviews, public appearances, or social media, Sandra has never shied away from discussing the importance of mental health care and the need to break down the stigma surrounding it. Her advocacy is rooted in a belief that mental health is just as important as physical health, and that society's tendency to ignore or downplay mental struggles can be harmful. Sandra has been vocal about how mental health issues can affect anyone, regardless of their status or success, and how it's crucial to seek help and support when needed. In a world where many individuals still feel embarrassed or ashamed to talk about mental health, Sandra's openness has given others the courage to speak out and seek help. As part of her advocacy, Sandra has supported various mental health initiatives, often using her celebrity status to amplify organizations that work to provide mental health resources and support. By sharing her own experiences, she has become an advocate for therapy and counseling, encouraging people to take the necessary steps to prioritize their mental well-being. She's also been involved in raising funds for mental health organizations, contributing to causes that provide education, support, and access to resources for those struggling with mental health issues. Sandra's passion for mental health awareness extends beyond just talking about it. She has actively contributed to projects and events that aim to provide tangible help to those in need. In addition to supporting mental health organizations, she has also become involved with initiatives that focus on the importance of self-care, self-compassion, and mindfulness. These initiatives focus not just on treating mental health challenges, but on preventing them, offering practical tools and strategies for people to maintain emotional balance and resilience in their everyday lives. Sandra has spoken about how her perspective on mental health has been shaped by her experiences in both her personal and professional life. As a mother, she understands the importance of creating an environment where her children feel safe, loved, and supported. This same care and compassion extend to her advocacy for mental health, ensuring that everyone, no matter their background or circumstances, has access to the resources and support they need. In a world where mental health can often be ignored or misunderstood, Sandra Bullock's voice is a beacon for those who need support and guidance. Her efforts to raise awareness, challenge stigma, and provide resources have made a significant impact, not just on her fans, but on the larger conversation surrounding mental health. Through her advocacy, she continues to demonstrate that mental well-being is a crucial part of the human experience and deserves as much attention as any other aspect of health. Sandra has proven that, beyond being a celebrated actress, she is also a compassionate advocate who uses her platform to inspire change and offer hope. Let's move on to our final thoughts. A legacy built on talent, heart, and staying true to herself. Conclusion and final thoughts. As we wrap up our deep dive into Sandra Bullock's remarkable life and career, it's clear that her legacy is one defined by both her incredible achievements in Hollywood and her unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. Sandra Bullock isn't just another Hollywood star. She's become a beloved figure whose influence extends far beyond the screen. From the moment she graced the big screen in Speed, Sandra's acting career skyrocketed. But what truly sets her apart is how she's managed to keep her feet firmly planted on the ground despite the pressures of fame. In a world where celebrity often means living under the scrutiny of constant attention, Sandra has consistently remained one of the most relatable and down-to-earth stars in the business. Whether it's her acclaimed performances in films like The Blind Side, where she won an Academy Award for her transformative role, or her memorable roles in comedies like While You Were Sleeping and The Proposal, Sandra's ability to transition from comedy to drama with such ease has made her one of Hollywood's most versatile and enduring talents. But beyond her acting talent, Sandra's impact is also felt in her philanthropy and activism. Her efforts with the American Red Cross, her involvement in disaster relief, and her advocacy for mental health initiatives highlight a side of Sandra that many may not see, but should certainly be celebrated. She's worked tirelessly to support causes she believes in, proving that her heart is as big as her talent. Her commitment to making a difference, whether it's through contributing to the rebuilding efforts in New Orleans or supporting organizations that promote mental health, shows that Sandra is not only a star on screen, but also in the real world. Then there's her personal life, which has always been relatively private compared to many in the limelight. Sandra's marriage to Jesse James and her subsequent divorce after his infidelity became one of the most publicized moments in her life. Despite the difficulties, she handled it with remarkable grace, a testament to her strength and resilience. Sandra's experience with motherhood, having adopted her son Louis and later welcoming her daughter Layla into her life, has also shaped her greatly. The joy and fulfillment she finds in being a mother have profoundly influenced how she navigates the world and her career. What stands out most about Sandra Bullock is her authenticity. Through the highs and lows, she has managed to stay true to who she is. She's not a Hollywood diva, but a grounded woman who enjoys the simple things in life and understands the importance of family, charity, and keeping her loved ones close. Even as she continues to thrive professionally, her ability to keep her personal life out of the public eye and maintain a sense of normalcy is something rare in the world of entertainment. So, when we look at Sandra Bullock's legacy, we see more than just an actress. We see a woman who has mastered the art of balancing fame with humility, success with compassion, and personal fulfillment with the will to give back. She has redefined what it means to be a leading lady in Hollywood, and her enduring relevance in both the entertainment world and her charitable endeavors speaks volumes about her character. Sandra's story is one of resilience, generosity, and relentless pursuit of a life well lived. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think about Sandra Bullock's journey? What surprised you the most about her life and career? Do you admire how she's managed to stay so grounded despite everything that's come her way? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this detailed look into Sandra's life, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all our latest content. Also, make sure to check out our other videos for more fascinating stories about Hollywood icons who have left an indelible mark on the world.